This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
This case doesn't just raise red flags, it kind of lights the whole field on fire. A 9-year-old girl, Melodee Buzzard, is missing, and the last adult seen with her mother, Ashlee. Well, she's walked out of jail with nothing more than an ankle monitor. This is a woman who can't give investigators a single verifiable explanation for where her daughter is. A woman who took that child on a multi-state trip in wigs and swapped plates. A woman who allegedly told a man she knew where the child was, then locked him in her house and threatened him with a box cutter. And somehow, she's out. The public is furious, investigators are stuck, and the system once again is acting like all of this is perfectly normal procedure. Well, according to the rules of procedure, it actually is, because that's how our system works, even though this is not normal. It's outrageous. So Jennifer Coffindaffer is with us, retired FBI special agent, to help us understand how something like this even happens and what investigators are really seeing behind the scenes, while the one person who holds the answers is free to walk away. Let's start with this and call it what it is. Insane. We have a missing 9-year-old. The last adult seen with her can't provide a verifiable explanation for where she is. How is that not enough to hold someone accountable, hold someone back from being free? How does it not trigger every alarm in the system? Help me understand what is going on here, Jen.
Well, it is shocking that at this point we cannot levy some sort of obstruction charge. I mean, that's what we have here. She's obstructing the investigation, and enough time has gone by that there's just no excuses left available. And when you look at this situation with Tyler, her friend that came over to help her, that gets then locked in her place after she tells him where Melodee is, which we know it's a complete lie, because law enforcement would have already investigated and we still have no Melodee. So when you look at all of that, right now the excuses are just coming to an end. Law enforcement is, I truly believe, doing what they need to be doing, but the judge to let her out, danger to the community, flight risk, how are those prongs not met? They were.
Was this just a really poor decision by the judge? Were their hands tied? Did they have any other options here? Or was this strategic? Was there something behind the scenes, maybe with investigators saying, yes, it'd be lovely to keep her locked up. The public has their pitchforks and their flames, and they'd like her to be away. But from an investigative standpoint, is she more valuable if you put the wild animal into her natural environment and see where she goes to eat?
Well, I think when it comes to this judge's decision, he made it very clear that he was only going to go on the facts presented in the case concerning not false imprisonment, basically not letting this individual out of her house. But even if you just go with those facts, which I've never heard of a judge doing, a judge is allowed to use the totality of all the circumstances known regarding an individual when deciding whether they're safe to be out in public. She showed she's a danger to the community, unstable. She used a box cutter to keep this guy in. That's a danger. And then I guess just would not consider at all her extravaganza to Nebraska and back as the flight risk prong.
I don't understand why going to what she said to Tyler, her friend, saying that, maybe the child is alive somewhere. Couldn't that be viewed as a confession and then hold her at this point?
Well, I think the reason it can't be, and such a great question, but the reason it can't be is because there's nothing to corroborate that. I believe that information Tyler said he gave that to law enforcement right away. They would have followed up on any sort of address, any sort of name, whatever she said, they would have followed up on. And again, we have no Melodee, so we know it was false. I think she literally, and I'm going to go back to this, it's a beautiful mind. I truly believe, and she doesn't know truth from reality at this point.
I mean, that is certainly what it feels like, that this is something that is completely messed up in her way of thinking, that she's not thinking clearly. It's just kind of things firing left and right. Why is it that it took a a friend or a former friend to come in to get these little pieces of information out of her when for more than a month investigators can't get anything. I mean, are we, when we're looking at the approach here with her and how we're handling this to try and get information, I mean, is it being handled incorrectly? Is there a psychological aspect to this that investigators are not equipped with or are not using? I mean, this seems to be like a mental health emergency, and we're treating it from an investigative standpoint or from a law enforcement standpoint just kind of like another law enforcement matter, something where the psychology doesn't really go into play when this is all a sort of a mental health crisis that's in action, but we don't seem to have the mental health tools to deal with it.
Well, there's two approaches, right? One is what I think law enforcement was sort of doing is not charging anything because, first of all, I think the obstruction charge they're worried won't hold water from this standpoint. As a mother, as a guardian, when you have full custody of your child, you're allowed to take them wherever you want. You're allowed to drop them off with a friend. There is nothing illegal about that. Now, there are issues in concerning truancy. But back in October 1st of this year, the truancy laws in California became non-felonious. So in other words, you can keep your kids out of school and it's not a felony violation anymore. So as things get more and more liberal thinking from a law enforcement standpoint in California, that I think also helped cause law enforcement not to have the tools they needed to charge her.
Do you think this happens all the time and this is just a case that we're hearing about, that there are more cases just like this that never make the news?
I think there are many cases like this from the standpoint of people being quote unquote homeschooled, people being abused. And I'm not saying, by the way, that Ashlee abused Melodee. Look, I think Ashlee treated Melodee like a possession. She wanted to keep her away from family. She wanted to keep her away from friends. She wanted to keep her in control of her. So I'm not saying she was abused other than what we know to be facts, if we're to believe the mother, and that is no food in the house, no edible food, squalor. All of that could be considered neglect. It happens all the time, I could tell you. Walking into these homes, you just wouldn't believe it.
Man.
If we don't have Melodee, and nobody other than Ashlee seems to have any clue as to where she is right now, and she's a free woman for the most part with an ankle monitor. If not now, when? What would it take to arrest her? Is there a certain time threshold we're waiting for here where after X amount of days you don't produce your kid, now we'll arrest you? I mean, what lever are we waiting for here to be pulled? Because if the Melodee never shows up, is what happens here, and she's wherever, dead somewhere in a woods that no one will ever find her in, does Ashlee just stay free forever? I mean, why? What are we waiting for? What are we waiting for to try and get to that point other than just, well, she's been gone a really long time now, she must be dead?
Well, I think certainly what the Bureau's doing, because the Bureau is handling all that cross the state's investigation. We know she was last seen on the eastern side of the Colorado-Utah border. So now we have a stretch of about 800 miles where Melodee disappeared, or Ashlee disappeared Melodee. And that is what they're really focusing on. But it takes so much time to go through all of that information from the car detail, whatever phone digital evidence there might be, and then interviewing witnesses that might have seen her. All of that takes so much time and so many man hours, and that's what they're doing. Analysts are poring over all this information, I can tell you. And as they finally figure out the last point she's seen before Ashlee shows up without Melodee, that's when they're going to tighten that timeline, and I think they get to more answers.
But how is this not a crime already? Where if she's not telling anybody where the kid is, and she doesn't have the kid, and she left the house, and the kid, now we don't know where the kid is. She just saying, she's like, what is she telling authorities that they're able to walk away and go, okay, that checks out?
Well, first of all, we all have a Fifth Amendment right not to cooperate with an investigation. We all have that right. And it happens all the time. And I'll bring you back to Gabby Petito. When the laundries were questioned, I mean, Gabby Petito dead, her van in the front yard. They're doing search warrants. Those parents have never talked other than in civil litigation when they had to talk. So it happens all the time. But I know what your point is, Tony. You're saying, oh, my God, this is about the welfare of a child. This is exigent. This isn't just, an event. This is brutally exigent. The problem is that Fifth Amendment right prevails unless they want to charge it with obstruction and risk them not having a strong enough case to convict.
How would this not be strong enough? There's a missing human being. Yeah. And I get the Gabby Petito thing, and that's a whole other conversation. Gabby was an adult. Those were not her parents. And they were not on the trip. Now, Brian went off and did his own damn thing. So there's a bit of a difference there, and I get the Fifth Amendment right there. This is someone who is dependent on Ashlee for her well-being. Is there no difference in the law between the Gabby Petito scenario and this scenario when you have a minor dependent that is now missing, that was in your care and is now gone missing? I don't understand how this is how our system works, where they can just disappear and you can be like, whoops.
Yeah, sorry.
like, well, I went on a road trip, must have left her at the come and go somewhere. It's like, what? Like, this is just, I don't understand how there's no actionable things that can be pulled by law enforcement to compel her to speak, that we can just be like, well, you're good. Just because you don't have her, that's okay. This is just, it's asinine.
It seems untenable that you can just drop your child somewhere and just go, like Tony said, like, whatever. Next one. I've got 2 more, so, whatever. Where is this loophole that can be closed at this point?
It's called the Fifth Amendment, and it's. I'll give you another example if you don't like the Gabby Petito example.
Yeah.
This one. How about the Harmony Montgomery, Adam Montgomery? She was missing for over 2 years. Law enforcement approached him, talked to him, told him he had to talk, and he said, up yours, I'm not talking, I'm not saying where she's at. And but for the, wife coming forward at the time and telling about the horrendous details, nothing would have been done. In the case that I like to talk about, because this case exactly mimics this case, is the Hoggle case, Hoggle out of Maryland. That case is so similar. Again, a mother, in that case 2 children, disappears her children back in 2014. She's arrested 3 years later, but they don't have enough to hold her because she's got psychiatric problems. Finally, while she's institutionalized in one of these group therapy sessions, she tells the group that she strangled the kids and that she put them in the trash. So finally, in 2025, 11 years later, she was finally charged. She's just been charged. But guess what? They're still holding hearings to see if she's competent to stand trial. I think this is a Hoggle Part 2 called Buzzard.
But again, with the psychiatric slant to it, how can you believe what she has to say?
Well, they believe it, and I believe it's probably because there was enough detail that they had some corroboration to back that all up. Again, those kids have been missing for 11 years. And persona non grata can be proven in a court of law. A lot of murder cases are tried without a body, and that's what they're doing in this case.
So all you have to do if you want to make your kids go away is just basically make them disappear somewhere and say you know nothing about it.
It's
and you're good. And never speak of it again.
Unless the Bureau, and I have not given up on the Bureau at all, unless the Bureau can get that timeline tightened up, show where she stayed an extended period of time in a certain area, and then thoroughly search that particular area, which is still a needle in a haystack. I think it's very difficult without a body or without a witness.
I just don't understand this. I mean, I do and I don't. Because, okay, here's the scenario. Riddle me this one. You get a beater. You get one of those old cars. You get one that doesn't have GPS and all that. It's literally winding windows and not even a car radio. It's like we're just talking like it's a Geo Metro. Like
it smells musty.
And it smells musty, and it smells of fish for some reason. You're not quite sure why, but it smells of fish, and I don't know why but it just smells of fish, and you don't take your cell phone, and you are like in the middle of nowhere, someplace where there's not gonna you get out of your metro area, then you just go on a path of no cameras or as few cameras as possible. You're on just back roads, and you go and you go and you go, and then you let the kids out, kill them, do whatever. You don't tell anybody you did this, but you do it, and it's in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere. And then there they are. They're gone. You drive back. There's no real evidence. I'm just going to tell where you went or where you came because you didn't bring your cell phone. And there's not, in the area to which you went, there's just nothingness. And there's certainly vast areas of our country of nothingness. And you come back and you just like, I don't know. Am I right? I don't have to tell you where they're fine.
So
and if you never say a word of it again and nobody's ever able to find the bodies, you're free.
So first of all, you basically described the exact area that Ashlee was in.
Yeah.
I mean, she veered off the highway in Utah and went down a rural road that is very off the beaten track. I've posted a lot of pictures. I mean, it's the desert. Yeah. And so when you're in places like that, it's so easy, even if you have your phone on, that it's not going to work. And all she had to do, quite frankly, was turn off her phone. I mean, that's what Koberger did, right?
Yeah.
We don't really know what he did in a long stretches of time, exactly where he was at.
But that shows guilt too, though.
Oh, well, it shows guilt, but guilty of what? So what are we going to charge? Are we going to charge leaving her with somebody? We don't have proof of that. She can't be charged with kidnapping. She is the guardian of that child. We can't charge her with a murder. We have no evidence of murder.
So there's no difference here between a dependent like Melodee is, and if it were her boyfriend or Ashlee's boy, and I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there, another human being, another adult that's not a dependent, that has their own agency, that can make their own choices. If you can simply disappear them and not answer any questions about where they went, even if they're a dependent, you're scot-free.
Well, you can't be forced to answer to law enforcement. I've been harping on this one avenue that can be used, and that is the dependency court. And it exists particularly in California, and they can a person like Ashlee can receive a summons from a dependency court judge and be summoned and made to come into court. And if she cannot provide answers as to where Melodee is and what happened to the satisfaction of that judge, she can be held in contempt and thrown in jail. And I think that's what should happen, because possibly she could be medicated. She could go to a counseling session. How about a Perkins Act? I would love something like that, where they put an undercover in the cell with her, buddy up with her, and maybe get us and the law enforcement community some answers. There are avenues. Nobody's taking them.
Why?
One of our commenters here, Jennifer, says, what about charging her with neglect to put the pressure on her?
And that's happened before in that Hoggle case. I looked back at that to see the steps they took, and they charged neglect, child endangerment. They charged.
Sure.
I thought was something that could possibly be used here, because if you drive 1,500 miles with a child and then return, so another at least 3,000 total miles on no sleep, just stopping for gas, was she fed, all those things, that could be a child endangerment, I think. I think that they are reluctant to charge anything right now because they don't want it not to stick. Listen, we just saw what happened with a guy that was held at box cutter, and wasn't allowed to leave, and she was out in a couple of days. So, I mean, that's the system.
Oh, it's disheartening.
It's just, It's maddening. I mean, how is this even possible? I do not understand this, that this can go on for this period of time. We're only a couple months in, and you gave examples of cases where it's taken literally years, more than a decade in some, for anyone to be held accountable. This is just one we're hearing about. This is one that we have publicity on. This is one that the authorities are actively investigating. Is there a difference in this case because the father is dead and the father is not in the picture? Or, I mean, what would the scenario be if the father was alive? And is there a difference if the father had any sort of custodial rights with that child, and then one parent disappeared the child, versus if they did not have any custodial rights? Would there be any difference in weight here on finding this kid, or holding the parent accountable that disappeared the child?
I love this question, because this is what the FBI does very well, is we handle custodial kidnapping cases. And that's where you have an individual like this go off the rails, and then you have the other normal parent that says, listen, I have custody too. They've stolen, my child. They go through court and show, and then they put out, legally a unlawful flight to avoid prosecution is what we call it, a UFAP warrant, and the Bureau gets to finding these parental kidnappers that are unstable. And yeah, it's so much different in terms of legally what we can do, especially once you find them. But in this case, she's the sole guardian, and that's what makes this much more complicated, kind of like Adam Montgomery with Harmony Montgomery.
So simply because she's the sole guardian and the other person's dead, because there's no one else contesting this, there's nobody else out there raising in a parental form because of legally being a parental figure, it's pretty much the system is designed. Is it because the system is designed? The system is not designed to assume or be prepared for a parent working against the best interest of their child. I mean, it seems like this was something, the way that it's functioning, no one saw this coming, and no one's ever made any fixes to it since. Clearly, we've run down this road many a times, but nothing ever seems to change in terms of what needs to be done here when somebody's going to pull the levers and basically hack the system and use it to their advantage the way that she is right now.
Right. At the core, that's exactly right. At the core of all of this is why the law is in place. And it's in place to keep the family together. It's in place to make sure that the guardians have the power they need to control what happens with their children. Nobody, as a general rule, wants the government telling them where they can educate their child, where they can take their child, who can watch their child. That is not something the general public wants to see. And so the laws protect those people, but unfortunately, it doesn't regard the individuals who are not acting in the best interest.
There has to be a safeguard that if you're not doing X, Y, and Z, they step in and do something. And X, Y, and Z has not been fulfilled in this case.
Well, X, Y, and Z, what is X, Y, and Z? The fact that she's not telling anyone what happened to Melodee. Again, we circle back to the Fifth Amendment, and unless they get her in dependency court, to me, that's the only answer here. Or there's only one more answer that I can think of. And that is if somebody, the mother of Ashlee or the paternal grandparents, step in, go to the court and say, we want to petition for custody. If they petition for custody, I see that at least as some leverage, that at least if she's found, something could be done. I would love to see such a petition take place. And I think it would help possibly get some answers.
Because right now she's in the custody of no one. I mean, on paper, she's in the custody of Ashlee, but she's not there. But the law doesn't seem to recognize that part.
Right. The law doesn't recognize that part. And let's face it, Tony, there has been nobody that's come forward. Nobody that said, by the way, this woman named Ashlee dropped off a 9-year-old with me.
Yeah.
Or a neighbor saying, there's this 9-year-old that just showed up at this house. The leads that were given by Tyler that were given to him by Ashlee obviously didn't pan out, or we wouldn't even be here today because Melodee would have been found by law enforcement. I just feel like I'm going to call it 90-10. 10% chance that she's still alive.
I agree.
And I don't think she was sex trafficked. I know that is the big dialogue running, and I could be completely wrong. I just do not see that as a possibility, a very probable possibility.
Why is your gut telling you that?
It's really not my gut. I always said as an investigator, I never used my gut. I used facts before me. I mean, I know a lot of investigators do, and a lot of people say, oh, my gut tells me. My gut's never told me anything. What tells me are the facts I see before me. I see a woman completely wanting control of her child. I see a woman whose proximal event, and anytime you have a major instance happen, there's always one huge proximal event. I think that was the school board saying, where the hell is she? And we need answers. I think that was the proximal event. She thought they were going to come and take her child away, especially in her paranoid state. She takes off with her. The changing of the license plates, we've talked about it, the wigs, all that she did, I think shows that she wanted to do everything to stay and maintain control of her. Remember, she was the one ripping up missing posters. Yeah. She doesn't want anybody's help because she knows exactly where she is. She's in control of that child, whether she's dead or alive. She knows where she is.
This would just be pure speculation at this point, but do you think that she left her daughter alive when she drove away? Or do you and if you're talking a delusional state here and someone who's not playing with a full deck and they really truly they care about their child in a control sort of way and they want them alive, you would think, you would maybe think that person would go hide them, quote unquote, someplace. Or I'm going to go here. I'm going to put you in this whatever, abandoned this or that, to stay here until I come get you again. So no one can, something like that. Or do you think it was the ultimate control of, oh, I know where she is and she's not going anywhere because I made sure of that?
I think the number one scenario is the one you just came up with. And I really do. For anybody who has dealt with people like this, and if you haven't, please go rent A Beautiful Mind. That is a true story. Crow's in it. He does a great job acting in it. And it's a true story of the imagination used and what becomes their reality. Mm-hmm. Where they think they're at, who they think is chasing them, all of that. It's just made up in their head. I could absolutely, and that's my number one scenario, is she really did do something like that. Remember, this is a critical piece that people may not know about or recall. I think it was around October 28th, right in that time frame, she tried to rent a car again. She was under surveillance. She tried to rent a car again. She couldn't get the car rented. And when I say under surveillance, by media, not by law enforcement in this particular state situation, and they wouldn't rent her a car. Where was she going in that car? She wasn't running away. She was running back to where Melodee was. That will always be my belief with why she tried to get in.
Then why don't we try and get her to get in a car and go again? Why? I mean, if she's delusional, if she's not in her right mind, she probably doesn't understand all the levers of the law that are being pulled around her right now. Just surprise! You just won a car, Bob Barker shows up, or the ghost of him shows up, and ta-da! Or just something, and just something that, guess what? We're going to give you a car, and you can go anywhere you want, and of course you tail it, but if you're dealing with someone without a full deck, but you take away the confines of, you're going to have to pay for this, because if finances is a thing, that's going to stop her. Number two, if she thinks that she already knows they're going to reject her getting a car, let's give her a fucking car and say, have fun. Let's see where it takes you.
And the Bureau has case funds for this. And they could do that, something like that, under some sort of ruse, something that comes in the mail. You're the lucky winner of a Honda Accord or whatever it might be. But this is the problem. First of all, and I've always said this, if they could arrest her, if they could get her off the streets, I think they would. If they thought legally it would hold. But I think they know that she would just bond out and they'd be back to square one. So I think that's why they haven't come in hot yet. Secondarily, I think they really did hope that she would have been able to get out. And I'm sure if they could have known that she went to this rental car agency or she was going to Uber over there, they would have done that. They would have said, listen, let her have the car, Avis, let her take off. We'll be held responsible. Here's the, money necessary, because the Bureau has case files and things like that.
Then have someone call her home and say, this is Avis. You know what? Turns out you can get that car. And we're going to deliver it to you right now. And a lifetime supply of wigs, and all the Sonic gift cards you need along the way to feed yourself. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's not an insane idea. If we're going to play crazy over here, where like the person can basically go free forever, why not play crazy with the crazy person if that may lead us to where this kid actually is, and hope to God she's found enough food to scrounge around with and continue living. Or we're going to find some kid dead in an abandoned shack somewhere. But either way, we'll get our answer. Other than that, this idea that we're just going to let her exist, this is insane. I mean, who's crazy here? Who's crazier, her or the rest of the world, if this is how we're letting it play out?
Well, I know it seems like we're over a month now, and it's so long for her to still be alive. But law enforcement, it just takes such a long time. I'm telling you, 800 miles, a stretch of 800 miles of road. This is
I know. And I don't expect random people to figure it out. Give her the car.
Well, I liked that idea, and I was hoping that was something that sort of law enforcement might be working on. I think we talked about it briefly. I indicated that as a possibility. Like I said, if they could lock her up and keep her in, they would have done that. That's their number one. If they can't, then maybe they were hoping for this to finesse its way to her, to what happened. And remember, she could have made it all the way back in and around Lompoc, California. Yeah. We don't know how far they got with her. I've always thought it was interesting that they had already done a search warrant on the 15th, I believe, of October, went back and did that second of, the vehicle, but they were able to go back to that house again. That's very interesting to me, because you have to reestablish probable cause, and not only probable cause that there could be indicia of a crime, but that it's there right now. Those are the parameters of probable cause for that. So there was something that gave them the probable cause to relook that happened in between that time frame. And I would love to read that affidavit. Law enforcement has so much more we're not seeing. They're showing us what they need to show us to get our help.
And if we don't have any arrests yet, and what is that telling you about the digital footprint that she has, or lack thereof? I mean, usually in so many cases, that's what sinks so many people. It's their Google histories. It's this, it's that. But a lot of times behavior like this isn't Googling, it's acting. And if she just decides one day, I'm going to go out and get this car and I got to go hide my kid, there may not have been a lot of search or premeditation to do any of those sort of things. Is that telling you something that there is no arrest too, because there isn't anything in any sort of digital footprint that would point to suspicious activity involving disappearing or murdering a child?
Absolutely. And I still can't believe there's nothing to just point out the obstruction piece of it. Yeah. Nothing in her digital footprint to show. I mean, it's in her physical footprints all over the place. Yeah. Right? She's obstructing. But why can't they get over that probable cause, really reasonable doubt hump? Because that's what a prosecutor is going to want, to take her in. And like I said, I think behind bars, things could drastically change and turn for the better for understanding what happened to Mel.
But instead, they put a bracelet on her ankle that she could cut off, and she's gone. She disappears into the night like an X-File.
Let me ask you this. If Melodee shows up, let's say Melodee is with somebody in some other state or wherever, and then Ashlee gets her back, comes back, and everything's just hunky-dory and normal, has a crime been committed?
I think there is no chance she would retain custody of her. I think the state would get custody based on everything we saw before us, which I think you're going to say, but Jen, then if we, not a crime, but basically that she is not that she's neglectful of her duties as a mother. I think CPS would come in and get an order to have her removed temporarily while it's all sorted out in the court, whether she should maintain custody.
But what if it was a private thing between her and a friend, and nobody needs to tell anybody where the kid is, because that's what the law is, and the kid was there? And I mean, you could probably get her on the custody or the welfare thing if she's not being educated. But let's say she's getting education. I don't know. I mean, if everything is just going, we're not telling anybody what we're doing, but this is what we're doing, and the kid is actually in good care, gets her back, kid's in good health, has a crime been committed other than she's just not telling anybody what's going on in her world?
I think that would be for a court to sort out, because if she left her in good care with somebody, if she's getting homeschooled. Now, obviously, we know she's not in school anywhere.
Sure.
I mean, it's an act of God to get your kid in school.
Yeah.
So we know she's not in school anywhere. But she can be homeschooled. And if somebody could prove that, and if she was well fed and being well taken care of, I agree with you, Tony. And, she's returned. What's the crime? There's no crime there. But the problem is I don't think that's what we're going to find.
Yeah. And maybe it should be a crime if you can't tell anybody where your kid is, especially authorities, when everyone's looking. Maybe that should be a crime in itself. But unfortunately, it's not. We're all learning. It's just, yeah.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.